Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. I thought today we'll go through the B-36J Peacemaker suggestion, which was passed to the developers. But first of all, there is a little bit of news for War Thunder. They are celebrating the Japanese Constitution Day, which on the 3rd of May 1947, the Constitution of Japan entered into force to declare the state's status as a democratic and pacifist nation. Lawmakers did their job brilliantly, and there were no amendments to the Constitution for the whole 75 years of its existence. So therefore, from the 3rd of May until the 5th of May, you just have to play 3 battles of the Japanese vehicles of rank 3 or higher, and you can get yourself a special decal, the Sakura Blossom decal, which looks really, really nice. So make sure to get that done. You also have the other one which is going on right now, the Polish Constitution Day. So make sure to check both of those events out so you can get some really cool decals. Anyway, let's get into the Peacemaker. So this article specifically talks about the B-36J, but also gives a general overlook of all of the B-36s. So therefore, we'll be covering the whole of the Convair B-36J Peacemaker. The Peacemaker itself, as its name suggests, was a heavy intercontinental bomber constructed for the United States Air Force as a means of keeping peace during the Cold War. Had Warsaw Pact forces ever gone on the offensive? The B-36 was equipped with a multitude of weapons, 39,000 kilos of conventional bombs, and also had a range of 3,465 nautical miles, which was capable of striking targets deep within Eastern Europe and also the Soviet Union. The initial proposal in 1941 called for a few major conditions, and this started with intercontinental flight, a maximum service ceiling well out of the range of traditional flak guns that were in service with Germany, so basically everything apart from the 128mm flak 40s, which were rarely around, a combat radius of 6,400 kilometers, and a 4,500 kilogram bomb load. The slow development of the B-36 and Consolidated Aircraft companies merged with the Vultee Aircraft Company, therefore becoming Convair, keeping the plane on the back burner while Boeing's B-29 Superfortress was rushed out into the Pacific theater. The first YB-36 prototype was not unveiled until the 20th of August 1945 and made its first flight on the 8th of August of the following year. The B-36 Peacemaker was the largest mass-produced piston-engine aircraft ever built, and also holds the record for the largest wingspan of any combat aircraft ever built. It had 4 bomb bays and was capable of carrying nuclear payloads without any special modifications should the mission require it. This was important as ICBMs of the time were not reliable, and no other aircraft in the USAF arsenal was able of carrying the Mark 17 hydrogen bomb from the CONUS, the continental United States, to the Soviet Union and back. Due to the long development time, many different technologies were implemented into the B-36. The D variant was equipped with 6 Pratt & Whitney R4360-53 Wasp Major radial engines with 3,800 horsepower each, mounted in the wing's trailing edge, but the plane was also fitted with 4 General Electric J47 turbojets in underwing pods, which were 2 per wing, with 23.2 kilonewtons of force for each engine. The plane soon developed a peculiar phrase during takeoff checklists where the crew would announce 6 turning, 4 burning, in reference to the 6 piston engines and 4 jet engines of the massive bomber. And when it comes to the differences with the J variants, as it stands, not many significant differences exist between the B-36 variants. FICON is exempt from this statement, with most of the changes being made to flight deck configurations, fuel tanks, and strengthening of the landing gear. The B-36J has the longest range of all the variants, while still carrying the same payload, due to the additional fuel storage. and has the better survivability attributed to the strengthened undercarriage and improved flight deck layout. Other variants of the B-26 were mostly rabbit trails, basically stuff like the NB-36, which was a nuclear reactor testbed, and an FICON project, the YB-60, etc., or they were reconnaissance variants designated the RB-36s. As its onset, the B-36 was conceived to have 6 remote control retractable gun turrets, as well as a non-retractable nose and tail turrets that each held two 20mm M24A1 cannons, totaling 16 defensive guns. However, with the advent of air-to-air missile technology, the gun tests and the gun turrets were rendered obsolete, and all were removed except the tail, which still carried the two 20mm M24A1 cannons. Some variants of the B-26 also were designated the GRB-36 and were used with the FICON, which is the Fighter in Convair or Fighter in Convair project, and as there was no fighters at the time that could escort the B-36 from the continental United States to a target in Eastern Europe and beyond, it was suggested that at a reduced payload, the B-36 could carry a parasite fighter within the bomb bay, or on a trapeze outside the plane. The former was the McDonnell XF-85 Goblin, and the later was the specially modified GRF-84F Thunderstreak or the GRF-84K Thunder Flash with trapeze attachments. This project was cancelled when the B-36 was phased out of service, as it proved too dangerous and also unnecessary. And then, with the B-52 Stratofortress being introduced in 1955, there was no longer a need for the B-36 Peacemaker. Convair also attempted to convert the B-36 to an all-jet bomber, designated the YB-60, to compete with the B-52 trials, but their design paled in comparison to the B-52, and this project was also cancelled. There are only 4 surviving examples of the B-36 Peacemaker. One is actually in Southeast Asia exhibit at the National United States Air Force Museum in Dayton, Ohio, and all of them are static displays, and there are no flying B-36 today, which is kind of sad. This vehicle had a maximum speed of 435 miles per hour and a general cruise speed of 230 miles per hour. The bomb load being 86,000 pounds with weight restrictions, or 72,000 pounds in a normal time would be kind of crazy to have in the game. But the specific one that they're looking at is the B-36J. Now, this has always been one of those vehicles that's on a lot of people's list to be added, along with stuff like the Tu-95, for example. And maybe one day we'll be able to get them. We see that War Thunder is actually pushing towards areas which would make these things a little bit more accommodating, at least in air battles, compared to ground and naval. But then again, who knows what could be coming in War Thunder over the next few years. When it comes to even this year, there's been a lot of additions which have surprised me quite a lot. So we'll have to see what goes on with this thing, but right now I'll be surprised to see it. As always, I hope you have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Merciless Reaper, Jerry Provolt, Mega Dino King, Professor X1718, Orange Tail, Sakoshi Tiger, Teddy, John Ryman, Universe, Eugens Terry, Ambrosius McClellan, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, Moxie, B. Young, and Derek R., Barine, Lafouche, and Samuel Slick for supporting the channel.